Yesterday, President Obama raised the possibility that he might be appointing yet another czar.
I will answer this one question about an Ebola czar. It may make sense for us to have one person, in part just so that after this initial surge of activity, we can have a more regular process just to make sure that we're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's going forward.
Dun, 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 dun. Today, that czar was named. It's Democratic operative Ron Klain. Well, he's a former chief of staff to Vice Presidents Biden and Gore. He oversaw the implementation of the 2009 economic stimulus and more. But does this amount to anything more than a political appointment? And what does Klain know about Ebola? Well, a lot of people are asking those questions. And the White House, well, they're doing their best to come up with some answers.
The president's choice to be the point man on running the Ebola response, Ron Klain, is already coming under some criticism from Republicans on Capitol Hill who are saying...
That's a shocking development, isn't it?
I know it's not something you'd ever anticipated.
It's like 3 weeks before an election day and Republicans are seeking to score political points. Stop the presses.
What does Ron Klain know about Ebola?
What we were looking for is not an Ebola expert, but rather an implementation expert. And that's exactly what Ron Klain is.
I don't know. Might be kind of helpful. Come in handy. Get a resume builder, say you know something about Ebola, but nevertheless, this is the man they chose, Dana.
It is. Ron Klain, by all accounts, is a well-liked guy, a well-connected staffer. He knows a lot of people in Washington. As they pointed out, he'd been the chief of staff to two vice presidents, and he also ran the president's stimulus package, which I don't know if that was anything I would write home about. I also think that that's the response that Josh Earnest gave today. I know that would be an instinct, that I would have maybe wanted to say a similar thing, but I think today was not the day.
What would you have said?
Well, first of all, President Bush would have called me up and been very angry at me if I had said something like that. If on a day like today you are trying to calm nerves and show people that you are on top of things and you are putting the best possible person in place and that you do not think of it as political, I think that would have been a better way to answer it, and it would have made the Republicans look even smaller. Instead, it was the opposite. The other thing that this appointment could have done is shown a little gravitas, right? You want to have somebody that has some sort of public health experience. I don't expect anybody to be an expert in Ebola per se, except for there might be just like 10 people in the United States who actually fit that role. I do accept their recommendation that he is a good implementer, if that's what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. If they have pinpointed the concern as being a lack of information flow, whether amongst the government or from government to healthcare professionals, perhaps Ron Klain is the best guy for that. But I do not think that it answered the call for what the president was trying to do today, which is to calm fears and say, I have now put into place somebody who I think is the best person to help get us through that. Plus, this Ron Klain is not going to get to talk to directly report to President Obama. He will have to go through other layers like Susan Rice and Lisa Monaco, which originally, this is what all the former people that have left the administration that have written books that have complained about getting information to the president so that he can make good decisions have complained about that exact process. So I think that Ron Klain, look, he's the president's choice, and we have to trust that it's going to be a good one, but I think that they could have made a better decision.
A missed opportunity here. And when I hear Susan Rice's name, that actually makes me more fearful than when I hear the word Ebola.
Let me take exception to that. I think that, first of all, whoever was going to run this had to come out of the White House. So you have all these.
Why?
Well, because
that's not true.
I think it is. I think you need to have the power of the presidency behind you when you're making decisions. And Ron Klain is a good implementer. You don't need somebody. You don't need a doctor or somebody else sitting on top of something like this. There are plenty of doctors out there. Some of them don't know much about Ebola. But Ron, I know him personally. He's the kind of guy that can implement a campaign, and that's what this is. It's a campaign, a communications campaign, and nobody's better at doing it than he is, and he's got Obama's ear. So
that's the problem, that you guys think that it's a political problem when it's actually a public health concern. And that's why I'm saying that they could have made a decision that would have answered that problem, and instead they answered their political problem.
It's a communications problem, as we pointed out here yesterday.
No, they have a protocol problem. They have a process problem. They have a fact problem. You can't blame the communicators for the fact that they got things wrong on the ground.
No, communication isn't the problem here at all. So
that's what y'all said yesterday. What are you talking about?
I don't know. Bowling, nice magic trick. Welcome from the 4 o'clock to the 5.
So here's, when this was announced, I literally thought it was a joke. I thought they were kidding.
A joke?
No, because I Googled Ron Klain and it came up with, the hanging Chad issue back back in, with Bush. I was literally saying, where's the medical experience? I'm not saying he needs to be an Ebola specialist, Bob, but don't you think the guy who's going to run the Ebola response, infectious virus disease response, should have some background in disease and transmission? I mean, he's the one who's going to allocate the resources.
Exactly the opposite.
Hold on. You yourself just admitted that this was a political issue.
I didn't. I said it was a communications issue.
No, it's not. How is it a communication?
You guys sat here yesterday and said we were communicating
Bob,
with American people.
when two nurses contract Ebola from a dying man, it's not a communications problem. It's a virus problem. It's a medical problem. They picked the wrong guy. This is why America is fearful of Ebola, not because they think they're going to die of Ebola.
And the government handling
of how the government's handling it. Exactly right. Not that they're going to die of Ebola, but how is the government keeping us safe?
Can I remind you again? There's three cases out of 318 million Americans
so far.
Agree.
It makes you wonder though, who was considered? Who was in the pool of candidates? Was it Charlie Sheen, Lindsay Lohan, a panda? I mean, did they pull the names out of a hat, and did the hat belong to Freddy Krueger? Appointing Klain to fight Ebola is like appointing Michael Moore to fight obesity. He's a partisan staffer with no medical background, and it makes me think that the White House is just pranking us, that this isn't an administration, it's the world's longest episode of Jackass, and we are the brunt of every joke, because you'd think that maybe for a moment they would have sat down and go, boy, people are really scared. We need like a majestic, inspirational leader, somebody that could instill confidence. And it doesn't have to be a medical expert. It could be somebody in the military. It could be somebody that everybody trusts. Hey, how about the guy that Kevin Spacey played in a mini-series? Right. And you know what's great about this guy? He loves to tweet. He's a really good tweeter.
Can I add one thing to that, too, when they're debating who this guy should be?
Yeah.
How about taking the Republicans, too? How about taking advice from, hey, who would be not partisan? Who would be uniting in getting the country back to a calm tone
what
instead
about Babbitt?
of
I mean, you could have gone
politics?
with somebody like a Democrat, like a long-term Democrat who had been a governor, who had done some of these things, who had to actually have to manage a big crisis and to have those types of relationships and know what the governors are dealing with and the healthcare professionals. But Bob, I want to make one point, because you're right. Yesterday I did say they have a communications problem, but I don't think that's their overarching problem. I said that I thought that they should get somebody there so they could have better information flow, so that the president and the press secretary actually have all the information that they need. But their overarching problem is one that's much bigger. I think there's somebody like a Tad Allen who ran the response. He was the Coast Guard admiral who ran the Katrina response. After that, showed that the government was unable and ill-equipped to deal with it. But he came in and he established that gravitas that I'm talking about.
But you know, this was not. They didn't address crisis management. They addressed crisis PR. So now we have more czars than 18th century Russia. And what's great about this is that he reports to Susan Rice, which is encouraging. But I guess Tommy Vietor was out of a job, so they couldn't go to him.
Chief of staff to two vice presidents. I mean, the idea that somehow you're talking about somebody who's weak here, but you've shown me somebody in the medical.
I've
never heard of somebody who knows something about.
He's very good as a political operative. He's really good as a debate coach, right? Kevin Spacey played him in a movie. But here's the deal. Now is the time to shore up and do something right. Why didn't they go like this? Hey, let's do it right. Let's not pick a political operative. Let's pick somebody that the Republicans, the Democrats,
also, actually, if they were really thinking political, what they should have done is they should have picked a Republican, because it would have blunted all the criticism. Why did they pick like a Bill Frist?
It would have
He ran a hospital.
We'd be doing the D block.
Yeah, the A block would have been like this.
That would not have been a bad idea.
If you think of Bill Frist, he was a U.S. senator.
Right.
He has extensive training in Africa, and he has the ability to run hospitals. He ran actually the hospital HCA.
Yeah, I think Frist would have been. That's a good point. He would have been
and
a good choice.
none of the Republicans would have
Nobody
complained.
I can think of in Washington, D.C. who has the connections that he has with Obama, who can implement a president's decision, implement an administration-wide effort. Ron Klain is about the best person I can think to do it.
All right, well, he has your vote. 1 out of 5. All right, perfect.
Well, I'm sure that's going to be a consideration. They'll let him go after they watch the 5, right?
All right, let's talk about something else. I want to talk about the troops. Let's talk about Ebola, West Africa, sending our soldiers over there to handle this problem, and talk about also how much training, if any, they are getting. Let's listen to Frieden talk about this new development.
As I understand it from the Department of Defense, their plans do not include any care for patients with Ebola or any direct contact with patients with Ebola. That said, we would always be careful in country because there is the possibility of coming in contact with someone with symptoms and being exposed to their body fluids.
On whether this is a good idea or not, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters.
It's a terrible idea. And this is the president's whimsy. This is how he believes our military should be used. Not fighting terrorists, not defending America against violent enemies, but for feel-good missions. To tear those people away from their jobs, from their families, and expose them to incredible risks. I have to say that this is one time when specifically dealing with the National Guard, I think the president should ask for volunteers and not order them.
Dana, you don't think it's such a good idea?
Well, no, I actually disagree with Colonel Peters, on this one. Although I did not serve in the military and he did, so everybody should take my thoughts with a grain of salt. I'm sure they do with a mountain of salt. But I think that our military will make sure that the necessary preparations and training that the military is a very valuable asset. They take care of one another, and I feel confident that trying to stop this outbreak over there is better than trying to deal with it if it comes over here.
But now we're ordering people to go over there instead of letting people volunteer.
Well, but they sign up for the National Guard, and that's
I got you, but now they get 4 hours of training. So I understand the argument that he's making. He's taking them away from their families and their children and compelling them to go to West Africa. So let's see what happens.
Well, I don't know if they signed up to do guys that. Are all prepared to do that.
Well, this is a volunteer army. This is the National Guard, right? So they're serving as reserve to be able to go in when called to duty. I'm just questioning the process and seeing if there's a better way to do it.
You should be questioning the process. In fact, we should all be questioning whether it's smart to send. Now it's up to 3,900 troops. 101st Airborne and Marines get a couple hours of training, and they go over there and they're supposed to build some hospitals and some morgues for dead bodies, Ebola.
Okay, but nobody's in the hospitals or the morgues where they are. They're building them. Okay, so that's what they do.
Well, we let's hope that's all it is. A couple hours training. We have nurses with decades of training. 2 of them now with Ebola. Yeah. My point is, why are we sending our people there to do that? Let's honestly.
What's the alternative?
Listen.
Send the money.
The countries that have contained this so far, who've contained their borders, Nigeria, which is really remarkable that they did that, but they have eradicated Ebola. What you need to do is stop this thing there, and it's a much bigger issue if we stop it there than trying to pick up 1 or 2 people here. And this has been going on for how many weeks now? 3 weeks. And I keep coming back to this. You don't want to hear it, but you're a sensationalist on this. 3
so far, Bob. What happens if 10 of these Marines come back with Ebola?
What?
All right.
I don't know.
Greg?
Well, I think the troop role must be defined, and the role must be what they said it is, which is only to build beds and to leave and not have any contact whatsoever with patients, which is what we're being told. If they have absolutely no contact with patients, I don't have a problem with it. We're really good at building things, and if we can help, we should help. But I want to just touch on what the president said about the travel ban, which kind of stuck with me. He said that he had no philosophical objection to the travel ban, and that is really great news. But this isn't a freshman college course on Schopenhauer. Someone remind him that this isn't a class project where you're making a papier-mâché volcano. This is absolutely real. So your philosophical objections mean nothing. Do you do it or do you not do it?
Yeah, but that's the problem. I think he's uncomfortable with making that kind of very quick decisions about something like. And I have a feeling we're going to have a ban.
Philosophically about it.
I don't know, but go back to college, go back to one of the UC schools and take philosophy.
I have a question though, because Eric, I just want to ask, just push you on just one point. If we send them money, send the Liberians money, that would be really wasting money because there's nobody there left in the country to actually do the things that we can do.
Well, it's going to cost us $1 billion to do this.
Okay,
it's going to cost us $1 billion, and God forbid if we lose any lives on top of it. Whatever money we send, we would.
What do you think it would cost to have?
I don't know. But I do know.
And none of us know. That's the problem with these whole shows.
This show
we are driving the anxiety.
You're 100% right. It's my opinion. I don't claim.
I don't think we're driving the anxiety. Don't make a sensational statement like that.
I make sensational statements. I haven't made the sensational statement. You've made the sensational.
I don't want to. Look, let's be calm. We're all going to die.
That's true. You have it.
There's the door. Runners, anybody?
Yes, take it.
Take it. Coming up.